Commissioner Lynn?
Here.
Commissioner Simmons?
Here.
Commissioner Stefanski?
Here.
Commissioner Twardy?
Here.
Okay, we're all here. Please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. Thank you very much. Just a couple of housekeeping items. One, cell phones. If you have a cell phone, if you would put it on vibrate or turn them off or silence them, we would appreciate it. Our first item is the 2014 Sault Ste. Marie Junior High delegation to Riocho. And I understand, or I know, principal of the middle school, Dean Paul, is here and would like to come to the mic and talk about the trip. And we appreciate you coming back and doing this for us.
Thank you very much, Mayor. It was a great time to be there. It seemed like the 13-hour trip before we even left Detroit was kind of like, are we ever going to get there? But I'm lucky to say that we went there and we had a great time. And I went there with 10 students, and I came back with the same 10 students. And the best thing about it is they had a number of days of rain before we got there. And then when we got there, they had a volcano erupt, but that happened to turn northwest out of our way a little bit. And then the typhoon that was coming in stayed out to the Pacific a little bit until the day we left. So all that time we were there, we had this great weather, and it was very exciting. And we've got some of our students here that, go ahead and stand up here, that, they could probably say a few things also. It was just an awesome experience because of not only having the 40 years relationship with the city of Sault Ste. Marie, but it was the 20th year that the Sioux schools in Riocho have been changing student delegations. And so it was just an awesome experience. Obviously the biggest challenge was to the language barrier, but our students did an awesome job, and they had an opportunity to build lifelong friendships with a lot of them, and a lot of them, myself included, with my host families, still stay in touch with them via email. So if you would like to have any questions for any of these young people, that'd be great.
We have pictures up on the screen.
This picture you're looking at right here was when we arrived in Nagoya, Japan, after our 13-hour flight, and then after we got to the airport, it took us about an hour for all of us just to get through the multiple layers of security and filling out paperwork and everything else. So needless to say, we were a little on the tired side, but when we got there at the other end, we had a welcoming party that was there waiting for us. And then after this picture, then we hopped on a bus for a little over an hour drive north to Riocho, where we were at. And so these folks, it was the first experience they had is about halfway up to Riocho. We stopped at a little stop in a store because they wanted to get something. We had already changed currency in Detroit. And so for all of us, we walked in the store, and of course, there was nobody that spoke any English. And they had their yens with them. They didn't know what these foods were. So some of them were just kind of being adventuresome, and they were buying some stuff for the snacks for their hour ride. So it was a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm. Any of the students want to say anything?
Wow. Anybody want to? They were talking
Journey?
all the time.
Yeah.
No. Kyle, you want to say anything? No. Thomas? These ladies here.
Huh?
Not to put you ladies on the spot. Here. We have a number of activities going on at school tonight, so that's where everybody else is at.
Okay.
They weren't able to make it. But they were learning. What we did is we had given them English, Japanese dictionary before we left, and a little cheat sheet card for some common words that they use. And so we were holding those dear to our heart, and it was coming in quite handy for all of our trips, but everywhere we went, their mayor was there, their superintendent of schools was there, and they were very excited because they were already working now on sending their next year's delegation. And they're trying to hope to get somewhere between 20 and 30 coming next year. So they were, when we met with their mayor and their city commissioners, they couldn't talk enough about the relationship that they have with our city here. And it was just great to see how far apart, distance-wise, but yet how close we really were.
And now, 40 years later, with technology that occurs, that you can actually, at least the students can actually stay friends for a life
Correct.
because of the technology. So,
Correct.
Well, we certainly, on behalf of the city of Sault Ste. Marie and the commission, certainly appreciate your taking the time to lead a delegation with your folks that went, and certainly the students that went. We thank you very much for that effort.
Thank you very much.
For that. Any- The second item, we have the City Beautification Awards, and Becky Bottrell, our person in charge of all this stuff, kind of help us through this.
Well, as the commission probably knows, I'm the city's representative. I always do this. Representative for the Keep Michigan Beautiful Incorporated. It's our statewide organization. It's been around since 52 years, I believe we celebrated it. And the end of October, we just had the awards program whereby they awarded 40 awards around the state. And the city of Sault Ste. Marie was the only one to receive an award in the Upper Peninsula. So that was a great honor for us. And it was in recognition of our annual field trip that we've done for 10 years now with the elementary students. And so I want to present the award for our outstanding contributions towards beautification to, if the city manager wants to come up too, I can present it to both you and the mayor. I'm currently serving as vice president, so it's a great honor for me to give this award to both of you. So if I want to congratulate you and the city for this award. And I can take a quick picture of you too.
Go ahead.
You're fine. I said I don't know. Oh, I was stuck.
I'm going to get a business name.
In the background.
I'm Lori. Thank you.
Right in front, Commissioner Stone.
Yeah, I'll present this first. Yeah. So in honor of the city receiving this award, I'm sorry, Rob. In honor of the city receiving this award, it's been a partnership through Washington School, Lake Superior State University, and Gregory Gardens. We hold it in honor of Arbor and Earth Day, and it promotes education with the younger students towards taking pride in our community. We have a mini cleanup around Project Playground. It's before the annual citywide cleanup. I got to get my plug in for that. And we clean up around Project Playground, and then we have a tree planting. The students walk over from Washington School and participate in these events, and then they're allowed time for lunch, time to play at Project Playground, and then walk back to the school, which it's a great event. It helps teach them, promotes our community, and also gets them outside getting some physical exercise, and not, like I like to say, on the Game Boys and video games. They're actually outside getting some fresh air. So it's great appreciation that we acknowledge these people that have played a major role in the success of this project. And it's actually Stacy Savoy at Washington Elementary School and Deidre Baker, oops, I'm sorry, at Washington. Stacy's a kindergarten teacher, and then Deidre is a first grade teacher at Washington School. And then, like I said, it's a partnership with Lake State. We have Stephen Gregory, who unfortunately is not able to make it here. The good news is he shot a deer. The bad news is he couldn't come. He's out hunting for it right now. Sure? Oh. and David, and I'm going to...
Go ahead.
Daruski? Am I close?
You're close. This is so close.
Yes.
I'll take both of them.
They actually come over and help dig the hole and give an informative lesson to the students on the importance of trees, caring for the tree. Actually, he gives a nice lesson on the diseases and why a tree doesn't. And it's actually each year when I thank Dave, it's amazing for his participation. He's always says, "You don't have to thank me. I love doing this," and it's so evident as the way that he interacts with the children, listens to all their questions, and some of them are just amazing, and you never know what's going to come out of their mouth. But he's so patient with them, and it's do really appreciate your efforts. The next one is Kevin Wozniak of Gregory Gardens, because he has, the past many years, has donated the tree and also helped with assisting with the planting. The students are allowed to take a handful of the dirt and the compost, and actually each one of them gets to take turns with planting of the tree. So like I said, it's been 10 years that we've done this project, and that's why Keep Michigan Beautiful chose to recognize us.
Just come in closer to the table.
Hey, Becky, come here.
That was a test. That was a test. Becky,
Come on. How is she?
yes, between the two. With your hands on the
Yeah.
plaque. Simply, that's a better. With your hands on the plaque.
Your hand on the plaque.
There you go. There. Perfect. Right here. 3, 2, 1. Good. 3, 2, 1. One more. Oh, we're good.
All right, wait.
Hold on.
Oh. You gotta hold it down. Hold it down.
Okay.
Again, congratulations. And I would like to take just a quick moment. I know that Jim Rowe, I saw him here earlier. Each year, the street department is so busy getting ready to open the parks and stuff like this, and they always make sure that the bathrooms are open, and then they also, it's usually 6 to 10 garbage bags that the students pick up in about 45 minutes around Project Playground and the ball fields, and they take care of disposing it, so it's a great cooperation. I really do appreciate the support that we get from the Public Works Department.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, thank you, Becky, for all your effort, and certainly thank the participants and the people that got the certificates for making the suit what it is. We really appreciate that. And John Shibley from Lake Superior State University, thank you again. Okay, item number 3, public comment on scheduled agenda items. Any person may reserve time to speak on an agenda item not to exceed 3 minutes per person. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to make a comment on an agenda item other than the public hearing? Because a public hearing, you're automatically, if you will get a chance, and we'll explain how we'll do that. But anybody here for the public hearing on Lake Shore will get a chance to speak. Other than that, are there anyone in the audience that would like to make a comment on a scheduled agenda item? Okay, hearing none, we'll go to item number. Before we do that, the manager and I were talking. We were at a meeting the other night, Thursday night, and talked about the Cloverland Electric and the Presque Isle Power Plant and the rate increases. And we wanted to. It was too late to add an agenda item, so at that time, so that we'd like to add that agenda item tonight on resolutions, and I'll let the city manager kind of explain. But as the commission knows, it takes a 7-0 vote or unanimous vote. So, city manager.
Thank you, Mayor. As the mayor indicated, he requested that 2 resolutions be brought forth in front of the City Commission tonight for potential consideration and approval. The first one pertains to 2 separate resolutions that are currently being considered by the legislature of the state of Michigan, specifically House Resolution number 37, which is being supported by 28 members of the Michigan House and is currently being studied by its Energy and Technology Committee, and also Senate Resolution number 187, which was adopted on October 22nd. Both of these resolutions oppose FERC's decision regarding the Presque Isle Power Plant, and the city's resolution prepared regarding this matter would support those resolutions. The second resolution pertains to Public Act 286 of 2008, which, as most of us may know, was one of the original acts of legislation that permitted Cliffs Natural Resources to move its entire electrical load from Wisconsin Energies to Integris Energy. And the second resolution would request that the legislature of the state of Michigan review the specific provision of Public Act of 286 of 2008 that allows that type of transfer to occur.
Okay, so we'd like to add that to the agenda, and we would do that probably during the manager's report.
That would be appropriate, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Lynn?
So moved.
Support.
It's been moved, supported. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same sign. Motion carried, and thank you very much. Item number 4 is the consent agenda. City Clerk.
Under the consent agenda, A, minute approval. 1, approval of the minutes of the regular city commission meeting November 3rd. Recommended action, approve the minutes of the regular city commission meeting of November 3rd, 2014. Item 2, acceptance of the minutes of the following boards and commissions. A, Economic Development Corporation of September 9th. B, Planning Commission of October 23rd. C, Sault Ste. Marie Housing Commission of September 18th. D, Tax Increment Financing Authority of July 8th. E, Tree Commission of October 21st. And F, Zoning Board of Appeals of October 30th. Recommended action, accept the minutes of the various boards and commissions. Item B, appointments and resignations. 1, resignation from the Superior District Library Board. Recommended action is to accept the resignation of Melissa Bellavender from the Superior District Library Board for a term that expires on December 31st, 2016, and send a letter of thanks for her service.
Okay, thank you. Is there any commissioner that would like something further explained on the consent agenda? Commissioner Stefanski.
So moved that the commission approve the consent agenda.
Support.
It's moved and supported. Are there any questions? Roll call, please.
Mayor Boswis.
Yes.
Commissioner Bauer.
Yes.
Commissioner Gary.
Yes.
Commissioner Lynn.
Yes.
Commissioner Shimmons.
Yes.
Commissioner Stefanski.
Yes.
Commissioner Tuorty.
Yes.
Motion carried. Thank you.
Item 5, special orders of business. A, second reading of an ordinance to amend the development plan and tax increment financing plan for the development area number 2.
Okay, thank you very much. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. As commissioners are well aware, at its September 3rd, 2013 regular meeting, the City Commission approved an amendment to the then existing boundaries of the Downtown Development Authority that expanded it to include all of the properties bordering the south side of West Portage Avenue between Osborne Boulevard and Magazine Street. This area is commonly referred to as the Tourist District. The Commission proceeded with this expansion of the DDA district with the understanding that the tax increment financing and development plan for Downtown Development Area 2 would need to be amended to correspond to these newly expanded boundaries. Importantly, the Downtown Development Authority Board has been working since September 2013 on amendments to the language of this plan, and has also voted at its July 9th, 2014 regular meeting to submit the final draft of this plan to the City Commission, which was previously presented by DDA Director Knepper. A public hearing regarding the amendments to this plan was held on August 18th, 2014, and at the same time the City Commission held a first reading of the ordinance that would effectuate the changes to the plan. Since that time, the City Attorney has reviewed the contents of the ordinance and has made modifications to the legal description. Accordingly, I'm recommending that even though there is no public hearing that is required for the adoption of this ordinance, that the mayor solicit any specific public feedback regarding this, and secondarily recommend that the City Commission approve the presented ordinance that thereby amends Section 18.5, 36A of the City's Code of Ordinances to effectuate these changes.
Okay, thank you. And this time, we will, if there's anyone that'd like to make a comment on these changes to the tax increment financing district, they can come forward now if they would like. Okay, thank you very much. City Commission, Commissioner Bauer.
So move the commission approve the presented ordinance, thereby amending section 18.5 through 36A of the city's Code of Ordinances and expanding the Downtown Development Authority District.
Support.
It's been moved, supported. Are there any questions? As you know, this item has been before us a number of times, so this is kind of just the final formality. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Bauer,
Yes.
Commissioner Gary,
Yes.
Commissioner Lynn,
Yes.
Commissioner Simmons,
Yes.
Commissioner Stefanski.
Yes.
Commissioner Tuarty.
Yes.
Mayor Boswis.
Yes. Motion carried. Thank you.
The next item under special orders of business is item B, public hearing of necessity for the Lakeshore Subdivision Drainage District Project.
Okay, thank you very much. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. As commissioners are aware, the city of Sault Ste. Marie has evaluated the condition of the existing drainage system within the Lakeshore Area Drainage District and has identified potential drainage system improvements. These improvements include potential ditching, culvert replacement, repair, and upsizing, and related driveway restoration activities. The goal of making these improvements would be to prevent the accumulation of standing water while also improving overall drainage within the drainage district. At its November 3rd, 2014 regular meeting, the City Commission approved a first resolution for public improvements pertaining to the potential making of these improvements and concurrently scheduled a public hearing of necessity to be held during this meeting regarding this matter. On November 4th, 2014, immediately following this City Commission meeting, the day above which this, the first resolution was passed, a public information meeting was held with Lakeshore Area Drainage District property owners regarding these improvements. Documentation from this public information meeting has been included for review by commissioners. It should be noted that many property owners in attendance at this meeting expressed concerns about both the potential drainage system improvements that could be made and any special assessment connected thereto. As an outcome of this feedback received from the community during this public information meeting, and as an outcome of the feedback received by the administration since this public information meeting, it has become apparent that additional community engagement between the city and property owners is desired prior to any further action being taken toward the making of these improvements. Accordingly, city staff is not recommending to the City Commission that it find these improvements to be necessary at this time. Rather, city staff will plan to engage in constructive dialogue with the owners of property within the drainage district over the next 6 to 12 months to both reassess the scale of stormwater management improvements that need to be made within the drainage district and to determine if a community consensus exists for the making of these improvements. At the same time, and on a related topic, city administration and city employees will be working to ensure that it appropriately maintains its own properties within the drainage district while delivering the highest quality services possible to property owners within the Lakeshore area. These efforts will be made in direct response to numerous concerns voiced during the November 4th, 2014 public information meeting and in various communications to my office that have been received since that meeting. City staff looks forward to engaging in meaningful and constructive dialogue with members of the community regarding these matters in the coming months, and accordingly, I'm recommending that the City Commission take the two following actions connected to the subject matter. First, that it hold the previously scheduled public hearing of necessity as publicized, and secondly, that the City Commission refer this project back to City Administration to obtain more feedback from property owners within the drainage district so that the scale of possible stormwater management improvements that could be made within the district can be reassessed, and so that City Administration can determine if a community consensus exists for the making of these improvements.
Okay, and at this time, we'll hold the public hearing of necessity, and I just want to let everyone know in the audience that you'll have a chance to speak. Everyone will have, I believe, is it 3 minutes, City Clerk? Okay, and our City Clerk, Assistant City Manager will time folks. So any questions that come up, we'll try to answer those at the conclusion of the public hearing. And if we can't answer those questions, then those answers will be forthcoming, okay, before it goes to the City Commission. Who would like to start? Are there anyone in the audience like to make a comment about the drainage proposal, or now that I believe everyone in the district has gotten or has received a letter in addition to the information you just presented, right?
Mayor, that is my understanding. The letter went out with sufficient time to be reviewed prior to this meeting.
And if you'd like to come up and, we know most of you, but if you'd like to state your name for the record, we would appreciate it.
Hello, I'm Stan Caruso. First of all, I was going to say I'm going to thank the city for opening up this can of worms. I think it's an opportune time to really put us back on the map. Lakeshore subdivision has been on, how can I say, the back burner for a long time. As a resident here of Lakeshore, since 1981, I'm not the oldest, but there's probably somebody else older, that we have been paying some pretty good tax bases in Lakeshore, and we have gotten nothing back out of it. Just to give you a little rundown, we did a little, with some friends of mine, we counted the amount of houses we have on Lakeshore, on the water side. There's about 50 houses on that stretch. And if you look at an average tax base of $7,000 per house, that's $350,000, okay? Per year. There's a total of about 200 houses in the Lakeshore area. That probably brings in to the city over $1 million a year. Okay, I personally have paid over $300,000 since I've been living there and since 1981. What have we gotten back out of it? I can tell you what we got back out of it. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. We get our city street, our streets are plowed last. And if you look around, there's actually quite a few doctors that live in that area there. So we're actually shortchanging the hospital from getting their doctors to work. Their leaves right now are on our roads because they didn't get picked up. You know, the water, so we have water service, we pay for that. What have we been getting? I'd really like to, you know, and there was, in the past, by the way, there was some previous city commission members and all that were saying, well, if you want to live in the Gold Coast, that's what you get. We know what we got. So it's about time you guys did wake up. And by the way, I did talk to another city manager. There is some money available to do some of these improvements. You guys should be looking at possibly, why are we not getting any sewer system? Why is there no plans for the future? We got raw sewage in our ditches. And of all the money that we've been putting in, so 30 years, by the way, the residents of Lakeshore put in at least $30 million. Half of it goes to the school district, the other half is being spent someplace, not in Lakeshore. So when are we gonna start looking into taking some of that money and putting it to the Lakeshore residents? Yeah, we'll probably have to pay something, but we shouldn't be paying for the whole thing. So when we're asking to kick in some money to clean up our ditches, that was an ultimate insult. I'm sorry, you guys missed the boat on that. There's only one person that lives in Lakeshore, and that's Pat. The rest of them, you guys don't live there. But it's high time we started looking at Lakeshore subdivision. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? You can clap if you like, but we all know why you're here, so the clapping isn't going to do a whole lot other than the fact that you're just taking up time for someone to speak, so we appreciate it. Who's up next?
My name is Van Peroy. I'm a lifelong resident of the Sioux, but I've only lived up in Lakeshore for about 5 years, so I don't have the long history the gentleman before me does, and I doubt if anyone's going to clap when I finish. But let me say this. I think what the city's done so far as getting an assessment of costs is very helpful, but there are some additional costs that need to be evaluated. It's okay to talk about water and drainage, but there's also the potential for the culverts and curbs. There's no costing yet developed for that. Neither is there any costing developed for sewer. I think City Commission should task the city staff to evaluate the costs for those alternates as well. All of these improvements would carry different costs. That's understood. But I'm more concerned with a more comprehensive approach to Lakeshore. It's a beautiful area, but it's been neglected for a lot of years. Back in the 80s, as I understand it, there was a federal program that would have allowed for a number of improvements to include sewer. It was turned down by the property owners of Lakeshore. Today, I think that would be reversed if they could go back and do it again. So it's possible to be penny wise and pound foolish, but that's not smart. What I'd like to find out is, can we look at a comprehensive approach, get the costing for that approach, And then we can weigh the benefits or the costs of doing it. Certainly, the cost of sewage has to be offset a little bit with the cost of maintaining your septic. That was a big problem when I bought my house. The inspector very concerned about the quality of the septic system. It passed, but we had to go through a lot of loops. Septic systems have a useful life, and when they reach the end of it, we all know it's going to cost, I don't know, $5,000, $7,000, $10,000. It's not like you can simply go out and for a couple of $1,000s replace it. Another concern, it just has to do with the fact that I care about the St. Mary's River. And if there's any septic system that's leaking into the St. Mary's, that's a problem for me. I don't want to certainly know that there's any problem with my system leaking, but when I hear reports about Sherman Park being closed for coliform, and the cause of the closing is geese, it makes me wonder. The St. Mary's River is being fed by Lake Superior, and we all know, and I've been out there many times, we know how much current flows down that river. So to say that geese are closing Sherman Park doesn't really make much sense to me. As a lawyer in my other life, I'm also concerned about the fact that we may not have any choice. If EPA or the state comes in and says that your septic systems are either a source of pollution or don't comply with EPA rules, who knows what could happen? They could mandate it, they could fine us. I don't want to pay $500 a day because I've got a septic system that they decide can't be there anymore. And people should think about that, because as an attorney, I know that can happen. The other town that I lived in, their wastewater treatment plant did not meet qualifications. That city was fined, and they were fined daily until they got it fixed. The other thing is property values. I see a positive. If we can upgrade Lakeshore, and we have nicely paved roads, we have culverts, we have city sewer to go with our city water. It certainly can't help can't hurt our property values. So I think what I'm trying to get at is we should take a comprehensive look at this. It's not a simple problem, but it's too easy to say, I don't want to spend anything, and I'm better off not spending $1 than I am looking at, is this cost spread over 10 years without interest a good deal? I think it is. And I think it's a great opportunity to correct the mistake that was made in the 80s and solve the problem. And the last thing is, if you do a piecemeal approach and you just do culverts or you just do some drainage, and then we have to go in and do a sewer, what are we going to do? Undo or tear up some of the improvements we've already made? That's again, not a very, very smart way to spend our money. So I just wanted to get this out for city to think about, and for my fellow subdivision owners to think about as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I'm Susan Fitzpatrick. I'm also a lifelong resident of the Sioux, and I've lived in Lakeshore Subdivision since '93. I live at the southwest end of the subdivision. That would be the downstream end, so I'm one of the last houses before the ditches empty into the river. I have to say I've never observed any drainage issues at all on my end of the subdivision. We've never had it backed up. I've never observed any sewage. This is news to me. That's the first I've heard that there's any septic issues in the neighborhood. I've never observed anything like that. And I do go to the right-of-ways and use the beaches as well, and I've never seen anything draining there. So that's happening. That's certainly a concern. But I personally have never had any trouble with the septic system in my yard, and I'm happy with it. And I would be opposed to having sewers installed in the neighborhood, mostly because of the increase in cost that would bring. I mean, I don't know if everybody realized that would double the price of your water. Every time you water your lawn, every time you wash your car, every time you water your garden, you're paying for the water and the sewage. That's a big increase in your water bills. And then even these improvements, I'm concerned about those as well. I have 458 feet of frontage on the road. That doesn't mean I have a big mansion. It means I have a lot of woods. The financial burden on us would be tremendous. I'm very concerned about that. So I guess in summary, I'm not in favor of improvements or sewage. Thanks.
Thank you. Rick?
I'm getting there.
Okay.
This takes me a while.
Mm-hmm.
Ladies and
appreciate you holding this hearing for a second time. I'd also like to compliment the gentleman that spoke just a few minutes ago. I think he brought up some very valid points about a more comprehensive approach to the Lake Shore issue. My comments will be brief. I think that many of the residents were quite taken back when they saw the original plan, which appeared to be something that was going to be pushed through without any real discussion or input from the homeowners in the area, and I'm pleased to see tonight so many people turn out. There's very few hearings that you see this many people involved. I think the other thing that concerned me were a lack of looking at alternatives prior to saying we needed this. I don't even think they knew what the grand total of the project was going to be, but that we needed this comprehensive plan and we were going to do A, B, C, D, and E zones, and we were all going to do them a little bit differently. When most of the property owners are aware that there are certain spots that have problems. There are some drainage problems. Some of them are city-related properties. Others are private. But a lot of them could be taken care of with a little bit of maintenance, a little bit of work, and some cooperation from both the subdivision and the city, and also implementing a more scheduled approach to things, where you knew that once or twice a year, almost like city cleanup, you knew once or twice a year there were going to be certain actions that were going to be taken. Some of them are as simple as putting the wings out on the graders and knocking the snow back before it gets to be spring and before the intersections flood. You don't need to be a rocket scientist to figure that one out. So the one thing that personally I'm a little bit afraid of is that, God forbid, should all of a sudden we be forced into taking some sort of sewer issues by EPA or whoever, I'm afraid we'll end up going down the same road we did for the water treatment plant. We didn't do anything for 20 years, got forced to do it, and then people tried to lower their cost by using less water, so you raise the rate to try to meet the obligation, so they use less water, so you raise the rate to meet the bond obligation. You know, that's the kind of thing that we don't need. And quite frankly, that's one of the things that I think sometimes we fall a little short on when we do thinking about these projects. I had some other notes here, but I think between myself and some of the other residents, I think we made our points. And I also want to take the opportunity to personally thank the city manager for his willingness to listen and consider some options. I appreciate his taking his time from an extraordinarily busy schedule to talk about these kind of things. So with that, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, and I would have called you this weekend, many of you, except we were all too busy blowing snow.
Thanks, Rick. Anyone else?
I'm Misty Kalia, and as most of you guys know, we're one of the newer residents in Lakeshore Subdivision. We've been living there 11 months now. We built our house on South Drive. We just recently, one culvert went in 13 months ago, and one culvert went in 5 months ago. So we have brand new culverts. We've dug out our ditches. We've already paid for everything that this ordinance would be doing. So we just kind of feel that it would be a waste of our money. We would be paying twice, you know, and we would have our driveways dug up again, if they even did it, because they would probably look and see that it's already done. So, I mean, I know I'm newer to the area and don't, you know, I know there are some issues. Yeah, it would have been nice to have city sewer when we moved in instead of having to pay for a septic and drain field, but, you know, we did it. We have a new one now, and we really like the area. I just feel that, you know, this would be a double cost for us. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Thank you, Commissioners of Sault Ste. Marie. Took my first breath in Sault Ste. Marie December 16th, 1977. I was raised in Detour, and I must say that the Lakeshore subdivision has to be the nicest place to live outside of living in the backside of Drummond Island.
Could you identify yourself?
And the UP.
Would you identify yourself for the record?
Oh, Todd Olmsted,
Thank
309 Central Avenue. Ladies and gentlemen of the subdivision, let me speak from a point of view for the younger parents in the neck of the woods, and the folks that, you know, don't have a lot of bread, that live a paycheck to paycheck type of lifestyle in that beautiful neck of the woods. I have standing water 9 months of the year, no doubt about it. And there's, I would say, how many, Bob? Like 7, 9 children within the block radius, all under the age of 10 years old, most of them under the age of 7 and 5. Let me bring you back to a year ago today, November 17th, 2013. I don't know how many people in here had to, the next morning, get their situation taken care of with Atlas or your local, you know, we all had water in our like lower basements that were usable. That was a $500 deductible that I didn't have, on top of the $2,000 that my coverage of $5,000 seepage and leakage didn't take care of. I made my first call to the engineering department here about 2.5 years ago because of those concerns, and a lot of people said, well, how come you're, you know, I said my piece. I was so excited to see a new city manager. I know most all the commissioners here, and I just figured it would eventually be taken care of. And I want to say that I don't have a problem dishing out a little bread, which I don't have, to make sure that this is taken care of, because I do believe it will help us in the long run. And there were some beautiful, beautiful points brought up tonight that most of us don't even think of. I thought about the snow stand, though. I thought about that the other day at 1 o'clock when my road still wasn't plowed. And, you know, there's some income housing and some trailer parks that are done before us. And, you know, I'm not saying anything about those, but they don't bring in the kind of revenue that our neck of the woods does. So speaking from the families that have younger children and that don't really have maybe the means necessarily to help with this, I'm willing to help with this, because my driveway, you know, is wearing and tearing on my car coming into the bump. So I just want everybody to remember last year at this time, was actually a year ago today, November 17th, that we had that nasty storm. And I know that sometimes the drainage problems wouldn't necessarily alleviate all of that, but it would have helped some of us maybe save our basement, because the power did go out, and what are you going to do? So, cheers. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Anyone else?
My name's Rob Baker, and we currently have 2 properties, my wife and I, on Lakeshore. We just moved there fresh just lately, and I've seen a lot of things down there in the time I've been down there. One of them is it doesn't seem like there's any preventive maintenance done to any of this stuff. I don't know, has anything been done? Does the city come, there's a few culverts there I've been looking at that haven't been cleaned out, that some might need replaced. I don't know if they're crushed down or what, but they just need, it just seems like you have to just see where the problem is and go after the certain areas where it needs to be fixed. Maybe this could be a progressively making things better approach than just redoing the whole thing. Because we have a 7.5 acre lot. There are 4 lots on the backside between Central and Martin, and we just got that not too long ago, and there's like 2,700 footage on that, on top of our over 100 on our road front on the water that we just bought. I didn't know this was going to happen when I was buying into it, so I probably would have been thinking things differently over. But there's absolutely no drainage issues on that 7-acre parcel. It's kind of away from everybody. There's no houses around it. And I think it'd be unfair for us to pay for something we don't really need either. So I'm paying a big chunk for everybody else. I mean, for the problem that's closer maybe to the water or the subdivision. But I think it's a preventive maintenance problem. I think we should just take a, you know, we pay taxes and right now I see roads being plowed, but the leaves weren't picked up. Plows are going by, the leaves are going in the ditches and plugging up all the culverts. I mean, if the leaves would have been picked up a long time ago, they've been sitting out there for, I don't know, 2-3 weeks. But anyway, that's all I have to say. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Thea Cipriano. Thank you. I am glad that this is brought to everybody's attention. I am one of the people who had concerns about the standing water in our neighborhood. Our property doesn't have any issues, but our neighbor's property does. One of the things that I was also concerned about, like many of the neighbors, is that when we got presented with a plan, that everybody has a different concern or issue with the different areas. And the plan that was presented didn't necessarily address it. It wasn't comforting to me that after all of this that you've presented, you're saying that if I do all of this and I pay you all this money, it's still not going to reduce the water, and I still might have standing water, and so what's the project really going to do? So that was of concern to me, and I agree with the gentleman that maybe we need to take a comprehensive look and maybe see and open up that communication line where certain problems are and maybe what those communications, hey, these people complained about this in this area, and maybe not a whole project assessment, rather focal points of what the different issues are, and then come back to the table. I don't necessarily think 12 months is going to make anybody happy. Communication should happen on a faster timeline. And then I also do have concerns about maintenance. I've lived in our property for about 3.5 years, and I am concerned that we do get plowed very late in the day. And, you know, it is concerning that we get stuck on the road sometimes twice a day on the way into the hospital. It's not exactly something that you want to be getting out of the road. And when you get in closer to town, it's clear, because we just haven't been plowed. So things like that that people have addressed would be great to have some of that maintenance. And maybe with the maintenance and the communication, it's not as large of a project as we think it is. Maybe just more of the spot issues that would help it. And I don't think, hopefully we can move that timeline up.
Thank you. Anyone else? Don't see anyone standing. We'll go to the city manager just to answer a couple of the points about leaf pickup. And believe me, Lakeshore is not the only area that didn't get the leaves picked up, or at least the final pickup. I believe Lakeshore was done at least once. There are leaves all over town. When you get 2 feet of snow in a day, or not a couple of days, everything comes to a standstill because all of a sudden you're into winter. And it looks like we're going to be into winter. So, City Manager.
And actually, I'd like to invite our DPW Director, Jim Moreau, to come up here and kind of discuss some of the leaf pickup activities that have occurred. It's my understanding leaves have been picked up a few times, and some of the plans we have for the immediate future.
Good evening.
Evening.
Yes, every fall, our fall leaf pickup takes about 4 weeks to do. This year, we had 3 before the snow hit. So there's a lot of leaves out there, particularly in Lakeshore. Lakeshore has the most leaves in town. We have big yards, a lot of hardwood. So, you know, it's, we have to get there typically 3 times in a fall. We just got there once. Our plan right now is, once things settle down, we're gonna pull snow on Lakeshore, and on Sherman Park Drive. That's where the worst spots are. Now, we're not gonna do the whole thing, just where the leaf piles are. That's why, if you notice, if the residents see that, we're not really widening the streets right now, because we don't want to blow the leaves too far back. But we're gonna pull snow just like we do in the downtown, bring it out, and we're just gonna take our big blower, load it up in tandems, and dump them in the back of Sherman Park, haul them out in the spring. So that's the plan where it stands right now. Things gotta settle down a little bit first. We need a couple days without snow so we can catch up. We wanna get down to bare pavement. We got a night crew on right now scraping. We're scrape tomorrow, but before next week, we hope to get this done. But it's weather dependent, but that's the plan right now.
Yeah, Salinas, I think, ended up with about 30 inches, and they're still getting it, so who knows what we're going to get for snow, but that's a decent plan.
That's what we got right now.
Thank you, Mr. Moreau. And we will be having internal discussions as to how we can most effectively maintain those properties and hold our own when it comes to maintaining our properties. So that's where that line of communication, I'm certainly open, our staff is certainly open to make it as much of a partnership as possible so that we can invest the energy that's necessary into making our properties maintained well and answering any questions that residents of the drainage district have.
Anything else? Okay. At this point, we'll go to the City Commission and Commissioner Shimmons.
Because I live out there, I am well aware of the problems. I know that there is standing water in ditches, and this last spring, there were some areas that I was called to repeatedly because, I mean, the water was coming right over the ditches onto the road. And the road in front of those areas is all alligatored, and I would presume that that is at least in part due to all of the water that is continually there. I agree with what you said. It was not comforting after going through all the information the other night to ultimately be told that there was no way of knowing for sure whether that was going to work or not. And I also know that there are many areas out there that don't have any problem at all with water. I mean, I would say, I think I'm 100% accurate, but none of Sherman Park Drive itself has water problems. It's mostly the side roads. And Lakeshore has areas that have a lot of water also, and standing water. But it is mostly the side streets. And there is a lot of water that gathers in the back of the yards. It's a very wet area. And I think the water table is probably at maximum. So our next problem will probably be our houses falling down into the water table. But I think that the high water table is adding to the problem because the water is just being held in the soil there, just being held. And I was told that when 16th was being prepared to pave, and this was like probably 25 years ago now, but that when they dug out that road, that the water was just pouring from like the side of the properties on Central and 16th there, just pouring down into what was being dug out. So I think that as a whole, that area is, I don't know if swampy is the right word, but it is holding a lot of water. And, you know, it's not getting to the ditches because it's just everywhere. But there are large areas that do not need to have any ditching done. I don't know about the shape of culverts, but there's been no water go through my culvert. You know, we've lived there for 22 years. That's or maybe even 23 when we built our house. So there are probably other culverts out there. I know on 16th, I had a call to come look at a property, and that was all scheduled to be ditched on 16th, like back by the golf course more, and have culverts changed out there, and it was a similar situation. They never have had water go through their culverts. So it seems like there's a lot of effort that is maybe not being focused in the right place. and the potential for a lot of expense for property owners that isn't even necessary. I think that's, I can't think of anything else.
Okay, and I was also at the meeting that was held to familiarize the property owners with the coming drainage district and the information. That was the first time that we actually had some numbers as to what it was going to cost. And I certainly thank our city engineer for getting that information, and it's not easily obtainable because it takes a certain amount of study to get all that, just like with the sewer. That's all going to take time and a lot of effort to get to the numbers of what it's going to cost. But ultimately, when you look at, an example like $3,600, and talking with our city engineer, the $3,000 of the $3,600 was to replace the driveway because the person had a cement driveway. And maybe the person had just, in my mind, maybe the person had just fixed the driveway 5 months ago or 5 years ago and wouldn't need a driveway, but they had to be torn up because we put a culvert in. So now, you're paying again for something maybe you just paid for within a lifetime of that being able to be there for a very long time. So we thought at this point very prudent to talk some more, make sure that the city's infrastructure that we're responsible for, and a number of people talked about a triangle area that maybe needs some cleaning and was holding a lot of water, making sure that we've taken care of those areas, and then spot, like Commissioner Sherman says and others have said, there's maybe some areas that are critical in making sure the water gets to the river, and looking at those areas, and if the city can enhance those and make them flow better, and if there's some of our property, being able to do that, and with some discussion with property owners, much more discussion than what had happened. But the city was responding to people calling and saying, I have standing water in my property, the ditches aren't running, ditches need to be cleaned, and like you see, the snowplow goes by and throws the leaves back in. Anything that's open is going to get filled up again. And open ditches with a curb and gutter, and I think Mr. P. The information you bring as far as looking at that, attempt to look at those kind of remediation answers are important, because 85, this would have occurred in 85 or 84, whenever that money was available, we wouldn't be talking about that today. And it didn't happen. It's never going to be cheaper than it is today, and we all know going forward prices escalate. So I'm not sure what it's going to take to get to those answers, but the city manager and our administrative staff will be talking about that. But going forward, we do appreciate the input from the residents. The communication will continue to build, I would hope, and become stronger on the needs in the Lakeshore area. How people are plowed. I'm on the east side of town. We don't get it till the very end. The west side of town doesn't get it till the very end. I'm not sure if when Spencer lived out there, if he was first to be plowed. If that was the case, then no. Okay. That was a that wasn't true. Okay. Yeah. But anyway, and it's just how that is set up by the city, and what makes most sense is how people are plowed. Other commissioners, feel free. Commissioner Tuardi.
I just have one point. I think it's important to note that the city had no intention on pushing a plan through without listening to the people out in the Lakeshore area. And we received a grant for a study. And so that was what the whole thing came about from. So we did the study, and Linda did a great job showing us that, this is the area that she believes is impacted. And so when there was that first meeting, we were all kind of blown away too, like the mayor said, with the numbers. But there was no intention on just pushing a project through without hearing from the people that live out in Lakeshore. So I think that's important for everybody to know. And I think that will continue to be the same case, where none of us would sit up here and just say, yes, this is what we are doing, without listening to you guys first. So.
Commissioner Bauer?
And on the heels of that too, we as commissioners, who do we hear from? The people who have problems. So when you've got standing water, when you've got basement issues, we hear from you, but who we don't hear from are people like the Kalias who have no problem. So, you know, who calls us and says, hey, Commissioner Bauer, I have no problem. So, you know, we don't. So it's good that we get both sides, and that's what these hearings are all about. And I think that I can speak on behalf of the entire commission that we're very glad that you all came out tonight and gave us both sides of the issue. I also move that we refer this back to the city administration to obtain more feedback and to make a better decision in the future.
Support. And move supported. Any further comments? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Gary?
Yes.
Commissioner Lynn?
Yes.
Commissioner Simmons?
Yes.
Commissioner Stefanski?
Yes.
Commissioner Tuarty?
Yes.
Mayor Vasquez?
Yes.
Commissioner Bauer?
Yes.
Motion carried. Thank you. Commissioner Lynn, do you have a comment?
I think everybody should stay for the whole meeting. There's stuff on the agenda here that is really exciting.
Again, thank you for coming, and we'll just take a couple-minute break just to, if you'd like to leave, feel free. But thank you for your comments.
And everybody leaves. I think that the city officials need to stay. Department heads, please stay. Good to know. By the way, I have a battery. The next time you come in on Monday and ask for battery.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks for coming out. It's exciting stuff.
Well, we had our basement on Central Avenue was flooded one year. The sump pump stopped working during the night. During the night.
That's fun.
But you know,
When are you sworn in? In a month?
Yeah, end of December, I think. See ya. Thanks. Okay, we'll come back to order. We're on item number 6, which is the city manager's report.
Where'd everybody go?
Thank you, Mayor. Item A under the city manager's report would provide authorization for the city to send a letter to the Chippewa County Treasurer objecting to the transfer of the ownership of 24 vacant tax foreclosed parcels from Chippewa County to the city. On October 22nd, 2014, Assistant City Manager Clerk Troyer received the included letter in the agenda packet from Chippewa County Treasurer Margie Hank regarding the status of 24 tax foreclosed parcels located within the city. Due to the fact none of these parcels were sold at 2 previously held public auctions, the county informed the city that it intended to deed these parcels over to the city pursuant to state law, unless the city submits a written objection of these planned transactions by November 24th. Should be noted that if these were transferred to the city would be responsible for paying the 2014 summer-winter taxes on these properties. In reviewing the location and disposition of these 24 lots, city staff has determined that none of these parcels would help further the city's mission or be beneficial to the city if they were in the possession of the city. All of these parcels are vacant and all but 4 are inaccessible by road. Accordingly, I am recommending that the City Commission authorize the City Manager to send a letter to the Chippewa County Treasurer objecting to the transfer of these 24 referenced parcels. And in doing so, these parcels would become under the purview of the county.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Stefanski.
So move that the city commission authorize the city manager to send a message or a letter to the Chippewa County treasurers objecting to the transfer of the referenced 24 parcels to the city.
Support. It's been moved, supported. Are there any questions? Commissioner Bauer.
I think you should send a letter and a message.
Duly noted, Commissioner. Thank you.
Send the message.
Commissioner Gary.
What will ultimately happen with these properties? Do we have any idea?
They would become the ownership of the county, and then it would be within their purview to properly dispose or otherwise develop the properties.
Are they all vacant, or are there dwellings?
They're all vacant. Yeah.
And they don't, as I understand it, they don't abut to city-owned parcel that a property owner might be interested in expanding their property?
To my knowledge, these are mostly inaccessible by road. In reviewing them, they wouldn't benefit the city whatsoever.
Okay. Any other comments? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Lynn?
Yes.
Commissioner Simmons?
Yes.
Commissioner Stefanski?
Yes.
Commissioner Tuorty?
Yes.
Mayor Bospas?
Yes.
Commissioner Bauer?
Yes.
Commissioner Gary?
Yes.
Motion carried. Thank you.
Item B under the city manager's report would provide for the approval of a resolution to exempt the city from the provisions of Public Act 152 of 2011. As commissioners are aware, Public Act 152 of 2011, being the publicly funded Health Insurance Contribution Act, provides the city with health care cost containment options. Two of the options contained within this legislation are the establishment of an 80-20 split, whereby the employer, being the city, would pay 80% of specific medical costs and employees would pay 20%. The other option contained within the legislation for healthcare cost containment would be the establishment of hard caps, which are certain dollar amounts beyond which the city would not be responsible for healthcare expenditures. In addition to these two options, Public Act 152 also provides the city with the ability to exempt itself from these provisions by a 2/3 vote of the City Commission. At this time, the city, through the hard work of the Special Health Determining Committee and action taken by the City Commission, has already established expenditure thresholds for health care benefits. These thresholds are very competitive with and actually less than the hard caps provided for by Public Act 152. Given the fact the threshold amounts established by the city are less than the hard caps provided for by Public Act 152 and the unique structure of the Special Health Determining Committee, administration does not find it desirable or necessary to enact either of the cost containment options within Public Act 152, and accordingly recommends that the City Commission pass the resolution presented to commissioners exempting the city from this act.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Tuorty.
I move that the City Commission adopt the presented resolution, exempt itself from the provisions of Public Act 152 of 2011 for the 2015 calendar and medical plan year.
Support.
It's moved and supported. Are there any questions? Commissioner Tuorty?
Just a comment. I just think this is great that we can move forward with covering health care. I mean, everybody I know is really freaking out about their current bills that they're receiving. In fact, my horrible coverage is going up, and I didn't know that my horrible coverage could get more expensive. So I just want to say that I'm glad that we're able to cover health care.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Stefanski?
Yes.
Commissioner Tuorty?
Yes.
Mayor Bospas?
Yes.
Commissioner Bauer?
Yes.
Commissioner Gary?
Yes.
Commissioner Lynn?
Yes.
Commissioner Simmons?
Yes.
Motion carried. Thank you.
Item C under the City Manager's report would provide for the approval of a lease agreement between the City of Sault Ste. Marie and Lake Superior State University for property located at 609 West 4th Avenue, also commonly referred to as the Senior Citizens Center. As commissioners are aware, City Administration has been working to negotiate a lease agreement with Lake Superior State University for the long-term use of the former Senior Citizen Center owned by the city, located at 609 West 4th Avenue by LSSU. As explained in the included communication from LSSU Vice President for Finance, Sherry Brooks, who is here in attendance tonight, LSSU would utilize this building in support of its criminal justice, fire science, and emergency medical services programs if the negotiated and included lease agreement is approved by the City Commission. In addition, the continued functional use of this building would support and bolster local collaborations between the city, LSSU, and various local, state, and federal law enforcement agencies while providing a unique scenario facility that could be utilized by the city on a long-term basis for training purposes. Inherent to this agreement is a term of 48 months beginning October 15th, 2014. Base rent amount of $1 per month payable to the city by Lake Superior State University. The repair and maintenance of the structure on an ongoing basis by LSSU. The making of specific repairs and improvements by LSSU that would bring the structure into compliance with the established ordinances of the city. The payment of all utility costs and certain insurance costs by LSSU related to the structure and the other terms as stipulated in the lease agreement. In addition, LSSU has provided approximately 35 to 40 stadium chairs to the city for installation and possible use at the Puller Community Building. It should also be pointed out that this lease agreement will still provide the city with the ability to use this property for its own needs, and that the presence of a scenario facility within this community in which law enforcement agencies can practice raids and other real-life simulations will not only enhance the overall assets and resources of the police department, but also support economic development within the community by strengthening the resources of LSSU and promoting collaborations between the city and its governmental partners. Accordingly, I am recommending that the City Commission approve the presented lease agreement between the City of Sault Ste. Marie and Lake Superior State University.
Again, thank you. Commissioner Gary.
I make a motion to approve the presented lease agreement between the City of Sault Ste. Marie and Lake Superior State University.
Support.
It's been moved, supported. Are there any questions? Commissioner Simmons.
I'm a little confused. It was my understanding that that building was in such dire condition that it was going to be torn down, and that we had money in the budget to do that, and now we are going to be leasing it out for it to be used for educational purposes. And I see where it's going to be brought into compliance with the ordinances, but how is that economically wise? If it was going to be torn down, it wasn't worth putting any money into, it wasn't worth selling, then how does it make sense? I mean, I'm just confused why someone would put money into the building to bring it up to code.
Perhaps I could defer to Ms. Brooks on this point and her calculus from the perspective of Lake Superior.
Yeah, sure, you want to come to...
The building itself is old, and to put it up into code is going to be minimal cost, or we wouldn't be doing that. It's a rough and tumble space. It's the kind of space our law enforcement and fire science people need. And the scenario rooms, you wouldn't want to put that in a brand new building. It's perfect for our needs for the next little while. And so it was empty, and our Professor Henderson was looking for a space to do the scenario type training. And we thought of this building because Dan Wires had showed it to us maybe a year or so ago, and we thought, well, we really didn't have a need. But they tried it out this summer, and Robin, when she was interim, basically gave us a 6 months lease. They tried it out and absolutely loved it. It's been just very well received, and what we're going to put into it is not going to improve the inside. It's going to make it look nice from the outside, meet your codes, make sure there's no broken glass, that there's no busted siding, that the lawns are kept, but it's not going to be a huge cost for us. It'll be a big benefit.
All right, thank you, Sherry.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions of Sherry Brooks? Thank you. Thank you. Any further comments? We have a motion and support. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Simmons?
Yes.
Commissioner Stefanski?
Yes.
Commissioner Tuorty?
Yes.
Mayor Bosma?
Yes.
Commissioner Bauer?
Yes.
Commissioner Gary?
Yes.
Commissioner Lynn?
Yes.
Motion carried. Thank you.
Item D, under the city manager's report, would provide authorization to permit the city manager to enter into formal negotiations with Meyer Incorporated to place a wetland conservation easement on city-owned property. In regards to the subject matter, I've requested that our planning and zoning administrator, Kelly Freeman, make a presentation regarding the same.
Who's this fella?
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners.
Evening.
Based on their approved site plan, the Meyer project will impact roughly 3 acres of regulated wetland. And because the impacts are on regulated wetland, they must be mitigated. Now, you can usually mitigate in 1 of 2 ways. You can either build new wetland somewhere else or preserve existing wetland. Based on the 3-acre impacts, we're looking about needing to preserve right around 30 or so acres of existing wetland. And because the city owns large areas of wetland, Meyer officially requested via a letter dated November 3rd that we consider allocating some of our wetland area for the purposes of mitigating their impacts. We did a similar deal for Walmart back in 2007, so this isn't anything that's out of the ordinary. We've done it before, and they're basically requesting a similar consideration. In fact, their consultant identified roughly the exact acreage needed in the Methodist Mission area on the east end of town, and it's actually directly adjacent to some of the easements that are already established for Walmart. And of course, any final agreement will come back to the City Commission for your ultimate consideration and approval. I do have kind of an aerial showing roughly what we're looking at here. I don't know if Bonnie has that on the screen. Okay. You can see down at the bottom here, this is 3 Mile Road. This is Gardenville Road. You can actually see just a little bit of the St. Mary's River peeking out of the corner here, just so you know where you're at. The existing Walmart easements, there's actually 2 of them that are outlined in kind of the purple color. There's a small one here and then a larger one that extends up on the west end. And what you see in the blue-colored hash mark would be the new easement for Meyer. If there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer them for you.
So just a question, that green area that's not included in the boundary between the Walmart site and the new proposed site, that area there?
This area in here is upland and would remain as it always has been.
Yes.
We could use that eventually in the future if we wanted to.
If we needed to, okay.
That's correct.
Okay. Commissioner Lane?
Yeah, when I was young, I lived on Riverside Drive and played in that area, walked through it. That is what should be called wetlands. It is wet.
I've been back there.
And, you know, my feeling on DEQ and wetlands, but that is actually wetlands. It's never going to be used for anything.
No. And actually, the consultant for Meyer did the delineation, and the DEQ actually made it out to verify that that was indeed correct before it snowed. So we're all copacetic, and everybody agrees the lines were. They're showing it here, so kudos to the DEQ for that.
Okay, thank you very much, Kelly.
Your Honor,
Commissioner.
so moved that we refer this, the Myers Incorporated project to the city manager to work out.
Support. It's been moved, supported. Any further questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Tuarty?
Yes.
Mayor Bosmas?
Yes.
Commissioner Bauer?
Yes.
Commissioner Gary?
Yes.
Commissioner Lynn?
Yes.
Commissioner Shimmons?
Yes.
Commissioner Stefanski?
Yes.
Motion carried, thank you.
Item E under the city manager's report would provide authorization for the city to accept urgent needs grant funding. As city commissioners are well aware, the Michigan Strategic Fund and MEDC has appropriated $7.5 million in CDBG funding to those northern Michigan communities that were declared either by a state or local jurisdiction to be in a state of emergency due to the deep freeze of the winter of 2013-2014. As commissioners are also aware, over the past months, since August 4th, efforts have been made to go through the application process to obtain grant funding for various infrastructure improvements connected to the deep freeze. On November 3rd, 2014, the city received a notification of award from the MEDC indicating that the city had received its full grant request in the amount of $968,403. At the same time that the city also received the grant agreement that's been included for review by commissioners. As indicated before, a lot of employees had a role in making this happen, and certainly appreciative of their efforts. The $968,403 comprises approximately 13% of the total funding appropriated for the Urgent Need Grant Funding Program, and given the strong competition for these grant funds, certainly applaud the city staff for their work, the city commission for their efforts, and appreciate the state for appropriating these funds. As noted in the fiscal effects, the city would receive $968,403 in CDBG funding through the execution of the included grant agreement. And it should be noted this grant will require a total match in the amount of $356,000. However, when you consider the $285,403 that were expended by the city during the winter of 2013-2014 responding to the needs presented by the deep freeze, there is a total cash outlay that's still required of only $70,000 $597, and I say only comparative to the amount of grant funds that would be received. And accordingly, I'm recommending first, that the City Commission authorize the City Manager to execute the included grant agreement between the Michigan Strategic Fund and the City of Sault Ste. Marie. And secondly, appropriate $70,597 from the Water Depreciation Fund to cover the required remaining portion of the local match for this grant agreement.
Okay, thank you. And those are two recommendations in discussion with the city attorney. Those are two separate motions. Commissioner Lynn.
Your Honor, I so move the city manager to execute, yeah, I'm on the right one, included grant agreement between the Michigan Strategic Fund and the city of Sault Ste. Marie.
Support.
It's been moved, supported. Let me just, on behalf of the commission, because and certainly the city administration and the citizens of Sault Ste. Marie, I'd like to thank our staff for their work on this. It's tremendous to get the 13% when you know how community development block grants work. To get that amount of money, it's taken some real expertise, and Jim Morrow and his staff, and Linda Sista, and whoever else was involved in this thing to get the numbers right, because I'm sure there was a lot of checking by the funding sources on our funds on what we were saying on paper, and to come up with those kind of monies, it really saves our debt depreciation fund, because those monies have to come from someplace to make sure you were able to do the repairs. So having that reimbursement is extraordinary to be able to get that kind of money, and we certainly appreciate their efforts. I speak for the commission on that too. I mean, anyone else? Roll call, please.
Mayor Bosbus?
Yes.
Commissioner Bauer?
Yes.
Commissioner Gary?
Yes.
Commissioner Lynn?
Yes.
Commissioner Shimmons?
Yes.
Commissioner Stefanski?
Yes.
Commissioner Tuorty?
Yes.
Motion carried. Thank you. Commissioner Lynn?
Your Honor, so move we appropriate $70,597 from the Water Depreciation Fund to cover the required remaining portion of the local match for this grant agreement.
Support.
It's been moved, supported. Are there any questions? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Bauer?
Yes.
Commissioner Gary?
Yes.
Commissioner Lynn?
Yes.
Commissioner Shimmons?
Yes.
Commissioner Stefanski?
Yes.
Commissioner Tuorty?
Yes.
Mayor Bosbus?
Yes. Motion carried. Thank you.
Item F, under the City Manager's report, would provide for the approval of a collective bargaining agreement between the City of Sault Ste. Marie and its Police Records Unit. As Commissioners are well aware, City Administration and the Police Records Bargaining Unit have successfully negotiated a collective bargaining agreement between both parties with an effective date of July 1st, 2014, and an expiration date of June 3rd, 2017. The most substantial changes contained within the agreement as compared to the past agreement is the inclusion of a 1.75% wage increase effective upon the date of the mutual ratification of the agreement, and then a 1.75% wage increase effective July 1st, 2015, and another 1.75% wage increase effective July 1st, 2016. In addition to those wage increases, the agreement also provides for a $100 signing bonus to each member of the bargaining unit, the inclusion of right-to-work language as specified in Section 1.2 of the agreement and required by state law, the inclusion of language that reflects healthcare expenditure thresholds that were recently established by the City Commission, and the inclusion of language pertaining to the provision of uniforms as specified in Section 9.6 of the proposed agreement. The administration would like to express its sincere appreciation to the members of this bargaining unit and to all of the members of the city for their continued professionalism, service, and integrity throughout the bargaining process. Accordingly, I'm recommending that the City Commission approve the presented collective bargaining agreement negotiated between the City of Sault Ste. Marie and the Police Officers Labor Council Sault Ste. Marie Police Records Unit as presented and negotiated by both parties.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Gary.
I would so move the city manager's recommendation.
Support.
It's been moved, supported. Are there any questions? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Gary?
Yes.
Commissioner Lynn?
Yes.
Commissioner Shimmons?
Yes.
Commissioner Stefanski?
Yes.
Commissioner Tuorty?
Yes.
Mayor Bosbus?
Yes.
Commissioner Bauer?
Yes.
Motion carried. Thank you.
Item G under the City Manager's report would provide for the approval of two resolutions that were drafted and completed today in conjunction with Gloverland Electric Cooperative. The first resolution would support House Concurrent Resolution Number 37 and Senate Resolution Number 187, urging the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission to reverse its acceptance of MISO's proposed SFR tariff, allocating 99.5% of costs related to the operation and maintenance of the Presque Isle Power Plant to Upper Peninsula ratepayers. The second resolution would be a resolution requesting that the Michigan Legislature revisit Public Act 286 of 2008, a portion of which permitted Cliffs Natural Resources to move from Wisconsin Energies to Integris Energy for the purchase of all of its electricity. Inherent to the first resolution, just to point out that this is a resolution that supports two other resolutions that are working their way through the legislative process in the state legislature, and urge the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission to reverse their course and actions regarding the Presque Isle Power Plant. The second resolution pertains to advocacy on the changing of Public Act 286 of 2008 in a manner that protects the long-term interests of the entire Upper Peninsula while providing stable and equitable utility rates that will not undermine the economic vitality of the Upper Peninsula and the Sault Ste. Marie community.
Any questions on the two resolutions? I think we consider them both at the same time. It is important that the second resolution talks about the power plant going back to Wisconsin Energy and making them viable, because when they were allowed to go out in 2000, and in fact they did it in 2013, that's what created the problems that we're having today, is that they bought energy from another source and crippled the Wisconsin Energy, no longer needing to be the Presque Isle plant, which created all the problems. So if we asking the legislature to go back and revisit that so that they can, in fact, go back to Wisconsin Energy and buy that power. Okay. Any other questions on the resolutions? Commissioner Lynn? Okay.
Approve the resolutions.
Support.
Then move supported. Any further questions or comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Their resolutions are coming around. There are 2 copies in each. If we want to start signing them, we'd appreciate it so that we can send those out tomorrow morning, I would guess. Great. Thank you.
That concludes the city manager's report portion of the agenda, Mayor.
Okay. Oh, you have a couple of status reports.
Under status report, item A, upcoming seasonal closure of Riverside Cemetery. As indicated in the memorandum, this indicates that the Riverside Cemetery will be closed effective Wednesday, November 26th. Actually, since the time this was put out, the cemetery has since been closed as the employees have been moved to plow sidewalks of snow and plow streets using every person available towards those efforts. That being said, the reopening of the cemetery and its operations are scheduled to occur on March 30th, 2015. Inquiries regarding this matter can be directed to the city clerk's office at 906-632-5716 or to the Department of Public Works and Parks and Recreation Department office at 906-632-5768.
Sure.
Item B, under the status report portion of the agenda, pertains to junk and disabled motor vehicle and the enforcement reminders regarding the same. And as the leaves drop from the trees, it's been the practice of the code enforcement officer to focus on junk and disabled motor vehicles located within the city. Property owners are reminded that any disabled motor vehicle that is inoperable due to mechanical issues or deflated or missing tires or are not licensed and insured are prohibited in all areas of the city except those located in enclosed garages and permitted auto repair and service stations. Additionally, we would request that property owners and residents keep in mind that junk means any wrecked, dismantled, inoperable, abandoned, or discarded appliances, furniture, machinery, vehicles, trailers, all-terrain vehicles, off-road vehicles, boats, snowmobiles, and tools of various nature. We're requesting that property owners take the lead in addressing these issues and look forward to working with them in a collaborative manner regarding this enforcement issue. Item C, under the status report, pertains to the overnight parking ban and winter parking restrictions. Effective December 1st, 2014, city ordinance provides that no person except for physicians, ambulance drivers, or undertakers on emergency calls shall park a motor vehicle on any street or alley between the hours of 3 a.m. and 6 a.m. Additionally, winter parking restrictions provide that no person, with those exceptions noted before, shall park a motor vehicle on odd-numbered addresses, sides of streets. This odd-numbered restriction does not apply to street segments where signs are currently posted to prohibit parking on one or both sides, to streets with designated meter parking spaces or permit parking spaces, does not apply to Ashman Street between Easter Day and Portage Avenue, or to West Portage Avenue between Osborne Boulevard and Ashman Street, does not apply to Bingham Avenue between East 6th Avenue and East Easter Day Avenue, does not apply to Peck Street between West Portage Avenue and Fort Street, does not further apply to Ridge Street between Magazine and Osborne Boulevard, and also does not apply to East Portage between Bingham Avenue and Mission Street. This is in accordance with city ordinance, and violation of the overnight parking fine can result in a fine of $50, and the violations of winter parking restrictions can result in a fine of $25.
And we'd just like to talk just a little bit about December the 1st, which is almost 2 weeks away. And if you look out your window, you know that we are into snow big time, so that we are asking residents, I think, to please pull off the road at night, so that if we have a snow event, which we've had regularly in the last week, that the plows can actually get by. With the amount of snow that we're getting, you can still see some of the residue from cars being on the sides of the road. When you're driving, you see this big pile in the middle, just off the curb area, and you know that people had to really shovel a lot to get their cars out. So we're just asking citizens in the area that they start parking somewhere other than the street for the remainder until December 1st hits, because I think really, I guess you can't issue tickets, and if it doesn't snow overnight, you're going to be okay, but how the snow effect has been happening and lake effect snow occurring, we'd appreciate everyone moving into the parking areas that they use for the winter. Okay.
Item D under status report pertains to the Christmas Parade of Lights and the lighting of the tree. As in past years, the Parade of Lights will be held on the Friday following Thanksgiving. We'll start at 7 p.m. and will take place on Ashman Street. And floats will start lining up behind Parker Ace Hardware beginning around 6 or 6:30 p.m. And we're looking for anyone with floats that may want to take part in this to contact us, or anybody that wants to put together a float. Please show up the night of the event. If you're planning to enter a float, please contact the Downtown Development Authority to register your entry.
Mm-hmm. And the city, again, the city float will be there normally by 6:15. Normally on the Ann Street, which would be at the corner of the Parker Hardware area there. There will be, Santa Claus will be here that night, so we really appreciate his efforts in getting to Sault Ste. Marie. Anything else?
That concludes the status report section of the meeting.
Okay. Item number 8, matters presented by the public. Is there anyone in the audience that can make a comment at this time? Hearing none, we'll go to item number 9, presented by the City Commission, matters. Any commissioner? Commissioner Stefanski.
Yeah, I read in the status report there, and I seen the black tarp going up around the MCM fence there. I'm wondering if we're opening Pandora's box by allowing properties that don't look, are sightly in this community to start putting up black tarps on their fences. I noticed at the International Bridge, where they used to have that small parking spot, they had a black tarp there on their fence, and I just thought it looked really bad. And I don't know if that's a practice that we should be allowing, or if we should be, MCM has that green belt that was in there, and I think that would look better than a tarp on a fence. And I just think we're opening up bigger problems if we start allowing that.
Commissioner, thank you for that. And right now, the administration is planning to continue with its efforts to achieve code compliance at that property. it's still visible from the water and still visible from portions of Portage Avenue. And we've been in discussions with the property owner. They've indicated they're making some progress on the removal of smaller items, and we're continuing to work with them for full compliance, notwithstanding the black tarp.
Commissioner Tuarte?
Thank you. I just have two things to mention. Number one, it was kind of brought to my attention this afternoon that this morning, and it may have been done, but as of this morning before school, Minneapolis Street, the sidewalks were not done, and that is like one of the major arteries, and that's a big, busy throughway for those kids to try and get to school. And I really think that that's one of the most important streets in town, that we really need to make sure that that sidewalk gets cleared. And then number two, any news on Sioux Seal yet? I'm sure all the kids are bugging me already, but I think we're probably going to be opening soon, and Dan's not here to ask, so.
Sioux Seal Recreation?
Yep.
There's Tubing Hills.
Yep.
Right, Sioux Seal, we're looking at the middle of December. We're hoping it might be a couple of days early. We're currently recruiting candidates for employment, and we'll soon be conducting a welcome session and a background check on potential employees for that. In regards to the Minneapolis sidewalk, my office did receive a call in regards to that. I spoke with DPW Director Moreau. They will be addressing that immediately, and appreciate their patience while the crew has worked over there.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Commissioner Lynn?
My turn? I just take a second. I'd just like to give our new city manager a pat on the back on how he handled the concerns of the citizens of Lake Shore. I think they're going to see a lot of attention from Mr. Turner, and not only those that live in Lake Shore, but South Side, East Side, West Side. I think that I just like the way that he's handled it, and I'd also like to apologize to him publicly for 2 weeks ago calling him Wally, because his name is Ollie. with that, there's another story to that, and I'll let it go. With that, Your Honor, I move to adjourn.
Support.
Been moved, support. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We are adjourned. Thank you very much.
Oh my God, that was so hilarious.